depends on to which memory area it is pointing, because in order to point to internal RAM, the pointer should be of 8 bit. In order to point to external RAM, the pointer size should be of 16 bit. So in this way, your pointer size is varying, that is either 2 bytes or 1 byte, based on whether it is pointing to internal or external. So here, and when you go with the generic pointer, your pointer size is always 3 bytes, and it can point to the data wherever it may be. So when you don't know where the data is available, but functions defining. We have done that using assembly. Memory specific pointer. Memory specific pointer, when you provide a, just a minute, ma. Or somebody is saying voice is breaking. Just let me check it out. Just, I'm going out of the meeting for 2 minutes. Explanation in a short form. Just let me tell you that. See, when you know that your data is in internal RAM, or when you know that your data is in external RAM, in such case, you go with memory specific pointer. When you go for pointing to an internal RAM data, you make that pointer type as data or iData, so that it can point to the internal RAM. And if you know that your data is in external RAM, you go with the pointer type which can point to the external data, that is Xdata type. So here, when you are declaring the pointer itself, you provide to which data it can point, that is internal or external or what. Then it will point only to that data. It will point only to that data. Is it clear with this? When you provide specific pointer, it can point to that specific area only. And if you are trying to point to another memory area, it will not work. You will not get expected result. Compiler will not throw error, but it will not work. Now clear with specific pointer? Fine. So here let me go with the delay subroutine. Let me take a file name, delay.c I am taking. You can take any file name, it is up to you. You know that we have written functions for delay in the assembly, but think that you are going with the embedded C programming only. In such scenarios, this will help you. And most of the times during your project designing, you will prefer embedded C only, because it is more comfortable for the users, for the programmers. Assembly is not that much easy to design or to understand. But in a scenario where you have to reduce the code size, then your assembly will be preferred. So here let me go for writing the main. See here, the task we are doing is defining the delay functions. So whenever you want 1 millisecond, 2 millisecond, like that, you can call that function. But before going for defining a function, because you know that when you go with function, you will pass an argument, you will return a value. So here, how the argument is passed and how the value will be returned, that we'll see. Try to observe the things clearly here. Before going with delay function definition, I'm trying to work here with how the arguments are passed in the embedded C through C51 compiler. Here, let me call one function. Just blindly, I'm taking one function and trying to pass one value. And let me go for definition. Think that it is not returning anything to you. And I'm taking here the argument type is of integer. See here, already I told you the integer by default is short. So this argument size, it will take as 2 bytes. And here see, whatever the value you have passed here, it is through call by value or call by reference. Call by value, very good. When you go for call by value, you know already there is a copy created. Your formal arguments will not modify the actual arguments. Fine. So here, this value is accepted with 2 byte memory location. What you are doing later, that is a secondary issue. But see here, see, because I have taken an integer which is of 2 bytes, how this 1 will be represented in the 2 bytes? 0, 0, 0, 1, right? Lower byte is kept into R7, higher byte is kept into R6. Means for passing an argument, what it is using? CPU registers. For passing an argument, it is using CPU registers. This statement already you know from the C, that is in the register storage class. You have studied that arguments are by default taking register storage class. Is it or not? Yes. So in such case, if CPU registers are available, then it will pass through the registers only. Fine. So 2 bytes, 2 registers are used. Now, let me go for increasing it. Let me increase one more argument. And I'm taking the second one also integer j. Now the argument size is how much totally? 4 bytes. Very good. It is not 8 bytes ma, because here integer is taking 2 bytes only, because it is taking by default as short integer. See, the first argument 0001 is sent through R6 and R7. See, before calling a function, what it is doing? It is putting the arguments into this registers. and the next 2 means 0002 is copied into R4 and R5. So for short integer variable, if it is a function argument, how many CPU registers it is using? For short integer, it is two registers only because it is 2 bytes, right? So here it is using only 2 registers for one short integer, 2 register for another short integer. Like that, how many arguments I can pass which are of short integer type? We'll check it out. See, see here, first argument R6, R7, R5, R4, R2, R3. Why 2 registers it is using? Because the variable size here is 2 bytes. The variable size here is 2 bytes. So it is using from R7 to R2. Next, if I go for next one, you are expecting that it will be passed through R0 and R1. But see what is happening. R7, R6 is used for one variable. R5, R4 is used for one variable. R2, R3 are used for one variable. Next variable passing is done through which addressing mode? Direct addressing. But here we have R0 and R1. But R0 and R1 main purpose you know already. They are preferred for indirect addressing. No, not for memory bank selection. RS1, RS0 which is in PSW used for memory bank selection. R0 and R1 they are used for indirect addressing. That is to hold the address. To hold the address. That is the reason why they are not used for this variable passing. So how many registers here are used for indirect addressing ma? Like when you go with iData, it should be addressed indirectly, right? For that R0 and R1 are reserved. So R0 and R1 are not used for passing an argument. R2 to R7 are used for passing a argument. So in this way,
Hello. Hello, Esma. Ma'am was disconnected due to some technical issue. Again, she will come back within 5 minutes.
Fine. So here, let me show you the keel. You are able to see keel ID now? Okay, fine. So in this, you are observing that the IDs, the arguments, whatever you are passing here, they are passed through the general purpose registers. And if available, then it is using general purpose registers. But if not available, then it is using direct addressable locations. So 6 registers it is using for arguments passing. Even though we have 2 more arguments here, it is not using. The only reason here is they are preferred for indirect addressing. They are preferred for indirect addressing. So in this way, you can observe first arguments are kept into registers and then your function is going to be called. After calling, you can see here clearly the content of the registers is copied into another set of locations. Your actual arguments are registers here and formal arguments are these direct addresses. So whatever the modifications you are doing inside the functions, they are going to modify in this memory locations. That is the reason why they are not going to modify the content in this registers. This is one copy, actual copy. This is formal copy. This is what you have studied already in C, but there you have not seen it practically. Here you can observe that it is practically like this. Okay. They are not fixed, they are preferred. See, if R0 and R1 is also used for this purpose, and think that if there is any variable which is of iData type, then who will access that variable? Because you know iData means it need to be accessed indirectly. So it is reserved for that purpose. The remaining registers are used for this. Fine, let me repeat it here once again. Normally, according to your C programming, you already learned that your function arguments uses register storage class. Means register storage class means what it tells you. If registers are available, they are being used. If not available, then other memory locations are going to be used. So here also it is same. Like when you go with passing an argument, it is started using from the R7 onwards, R7, R6, R5 up to R2 because they are available. But if you increase the argument size even more, we don't have the registers available. That is the reason why it is trying to access the direct addressable memory locations. So 6 bytes of arguments maximum, I'm telling you maximum 6 bytes of arguments can be passed through the CPU registers in this architecture. Minimum it can be even less. Is it clear? So in this way, how many maximum short integer arguments can be passed through the CPU registers? If a question is like this, how many maximum short integer arguments can be passed through CPU registers? 3, very good. How many maximum character arguments can be passed through the CPU registers? 6, yes. How many long integer arguments can be passed? 1 only, yes. Very good. So now you are with the point. So in this way, your arguments are passed through the CPU registers when they are in terms of bytes. And even if you go for returning a value, now let me show you that the return type I'll take here, because you have the functions with return type also. Now let me go with the argument type as void. Argument type here is void and return value, and let me collect that. Whatever the delay function is returning, you are collecting into one variable. The return type is character, means it is 1 byte. So whenever you are trying to return an information, let me put here return some value. It can be anything. 1 byte of information. And see here, function is called. It went to the function where this 12 is stored. See, before returning, where the value is copied. Into R7. Problem with the screen. You're not able to see. It is stored in R7. Everyone is able to see here, right? Fine. So here, in this way, your return value is stored into this and it is returned through the register. So even when it is returning the value also, it is using CPU registers only. While passing an argument, it is using CPU registers if available. While returning also, it is using CPU registers only. If not available, then it uses direct addressable locations. Clear? But if my return type is bit, because here in this it will allow you to return bit also. It will allow you to return bit also. Here let me take bit and I'll return only 1 because bit means it is 0 or 1. So let me collect it with this. What I'm doing here, see, I'm returning 1. Even you can return 0 if you want. The return type is bit. When the return type is bit, see the function is called, and how did the bit is getting returned? Through what? Carry, yes. Clear now? So when you return byte of information or bytes of information, then it is returned through the CPU registers. Yes, I'm repeating, ma. When you return the data in terms of bytes, then it is returned through the CPU registers. If you return bit, then it is returned through the carry. Is it clear now? If you return bytes of information means what? It may be a character or integer or long integer, whatever it may be. In terms of that, then it will use CPU registers. But if you return bit type, it will use carry for returning the value. The value is, note down this point, the value is returned through the carry when return type is bit. The value is returned through the CPU registers if return type is in terms of bytes. And when CPU registers are not available, then it uses direct addressable locations. Now clear? Passing, returning the arguments which are in terms of bytes is through CPU registers if available. Otherwise through direct addressable locations. It is common, either it is return or pass. Okay. But if it is bit type, then only it is carry. Tell me something, yes or no? So how the arguments are being passed, how the arguments are being returned, that is clear to you, right? Fine. So here, now see in this, let me go for returning a bit, but I'll collect it with the character. Try to observe the scenario. I'm returning bit value, but I'm collecting it in the character variable. Means of information, and you want to collect it into a 8-bit variable. Did you remember during assembly program? Did you remember during assembly programming, carry we have moved to the bill addressable location. From there again we have transfer. 5 minutes. We have moved to the transfer. But now here voice is now you are able to hear me properly? Fine. So here, let me show you the program where we are trying to return a single bit of information, but we are collecting it with the byte. But during, yes ma, I'm sharing the screen. Is the screen size visible to you? Yes, people started using the annotate. Why you will not even wait for a single minute? You want to enjoy the things. Now try to enjoy. I disabled the things. Screen size is okay for you, right? Fine, fine. So here see, I'm returning bit of information, but here I'm collecting it with the byte. This thing is like this, like move accumulator comma C. Is it allowed during assembly programming? Did you remember? Try to recollect. Yes, very good. No. What we have done here? First, we have cleared accumulator. Then we went for copying carry into 0th position. Yes, very good. Then we have used accumulator as a 8-bit register. In this way, programmer explicitly typecasted it. Is it or not? Programmer has done it. But see here, when you go with C programming, that is here embedded C programming, your bit will be automatically typecasted to byte. See the code generated here. Function is called, it is returning a bit. Yes, function is returning a bit. and after it returns, your value is copied into accumulator. You can see here. Your value is available in accumulator. Means it is doing implicit typecasting. Is it or not? But in the assembly, are we able to do like this? No. We have to write a code for doing all the conversions. But here, your compiler is doing. Because your compiler is doing everything, most of the things for you, you are saying that C or embedded C is easy over assembly. Clear? So here, typecasting will automatically happen. You no need to worry much. Clear with this, right? And one of the question asked recently in one of the interview is, write an assembly instructions for converting a single bit into the byte format. Try to understand the question. Write assembly instructions for converting single bit into byte. Single bit into byte means what? All the MSB bits will be appended with zeros. How we can do that? You take single bit into the carry first. You clear your accumulator. Yes, ma. Write assembly instructions for converting a single bit into byte. Question is clear to you, right? So here you take that. Yes, answer is same program. Very good. You take that single bit in the carry, clear the accumulator, then go for moving that carry into ACC.0. Later on, you try to access accumulator. When you access accumulator, it will be of 1 byte. So your single bit which is in carry is being accessed through accumulator as a byte. Okay. So in this way, the questions will be asked, simple questions. But if it is an embedded C, you no need to worry much. It will automatically do. 0, accumulator dot 0. Means 0th bit of accumulator we are accessing. Okay. So now let me go for delay subroutine. I'm going for, now you know how the arguments are being passed, how the arguments are being returned, and how the typecasting is done. If return type is one type and collecting type is another type, how the typecasting is done, everything you are clear, right? Because these are the basic questions they will be asking most of the times to test whether you have used your or whether you have practiced your programs or not. For now, what I'll do is I'll call this function delay underscore ms and I'll pass an argument as 1. Means I'm expecting here 1 millisecond delay. Let me change the name underscore ms. whatever the one I am passing, I'll try to collect with the unsigned type only, because we are very much clear that delay cannot be negative values. Is it or not? It cannot be -2 milliseconds, -3 milliseconds, right? Is it possible to have -2, -3 milliseconds like that? No, very good. That is the reason why I'm going with unsigned here, so that positive value range will be increased. Everyone knows unsigned short integer range, right? Unsigned short integer range, what it is? 0 to 65,535. Very good. So it can hold any value in between 0 to 2 power 16 minus 1. So your value can go maximum up to 65,535. If you think that it is beyond 65,535, then better make here as long integer. Then it can hold even more. Is it okay? Based on your argument size, you go for extending the data type. Now, just what is my expectation is, when processor calls this function and control goes to this function, then by the time it comes out of this function, 1 millisecond time should be completed. When processor calls this and control goes to this, by the time it returns back, 1 millisecond time should be completed. Means somehow you have to engage the processor in this function for how long? 1 millisecond. Is it clear? So in this way, 1 millisecond means you have to do some or the other things here. Let me try to do. Just I'm implementing a loop here, so that for executing the loop, it will take some time, so that it will be there itself for some time. Let me check how long it is going to be here. I'm just blindly writing some set of instructions. See, here you can observe, for executing startup code itself, it took some time. How much time it took? 389 machine cycles. For executing the startup code, it took 389 machine cycles. And after 389 machine cycles, our main program started executing. See, to return back means to execute your function and return back, by the time it came out, how many machine cycles it is showing? Initially, before starting your main program, it is 389. After completing delay function execution, it is 802. So how many machine cycles your delay function has taken? Very good. So that is 802 minus 389. But is it sufficient for us? 1 millisecond means, yes, I'll repeat it, ma. Here my intention is to check how long processor is in the delay function. just to know how much time it has completed. For that reason, what I am doing is, I'm checking it out before starting up with the delay function, how many machine cycles it is. Then after completing the delay function, how many machine cycles it is. So the final value minus initial value will be the time taken by the delay. Before your delay function has started executing, machine cycles it has taken is 389. So before delay starts, how many machine cycles it is showing? 389. With this, everyone is clear, right? Before delay function has started its execution, it is 389. Very good. And when I go for executing delay function, and by the time I return back, how many it is showing me? 802. After completing it is 802. Before starting it is 389. So how much that particular function has taken? 802 minus 389. So it is 413. Now everyone is clear? But here if I go with oscillator frequency as 12 megahertz, one machine cycle is taking 1 microsecond. To get 1 millisecond, how many machine cycles we want? 1000. Very good. But are we getting your 1000 machine cycles for the delay function? No. So what we have to do? You have to increase the delay function execution time. How to increase the delay function execution time? You go for writing some more things. Let me take here another variable. Just I'm going with the nested looping. You can write whatever you want, but finally you should get the delay you are expecting. Why I am going with the nested looping here is, in this, processor can wait for more time. See, for every J loop, like let me write this inside this. Already you know, when there is only single line, no need of curly brace here. So for every I loop, yes, writing more code with the help of nested looping. For every I loop, J will be repeated for how many times? Yes, 120 times. And let me ask you one question from your C. Instead of unsigned, if I keep here signed, is there any change in loop repetition, in J loop repetition? And let me go for this. Observe now. With signed int J, how many times this J loop will be repeated? Observe properly. 121 times one answer came. Observe the question clearly. There is a small thing you have to notice in the question. Very good, infinite. Yes, see, when it is signed, can it be Who has turned on the mic? Try to mute your mic. See, when it is signed, sign number signed will go with 120, 119, 1 like this. It will go on decrementing, and even when it is 0, it will decrement, and that will become -1. So when it is signed, it is 121. But when it is unsigned, see, few people have answered 121, which is correct answer. When I told you observe keenly, and again you started telling me that it is infinite. Means you are not confident with your answer. Yes, few people are confident. I am not telling you that it is not. But again you came up with the new answer. When it is signed, it is 121 only. But when it is unsigned, it will become infinite. When it is signed, obviously after 0, it will go down to -1. -1 j, when it becomes -1 is not greater than 0. So it will fail. So after 121 times, it will fail. But if it is unsigned, try to understand this. When it is signed, it is fine 121 times only. But when it is unsigned, 120, 119, like this, it will go on. It will decrement up to 0. After 0, when it decrements, normally you are expecting it should be -1. But unsigned, can it be a -1? No, it will become a highest value. That highest value is again positive only. That positive value, is it greater than or equal to 0 or not? Yes. Is it ever becoming negative? Unsigned? No. Means it will become infinite loop. Unsigned when you take, yes, unsigned when you take, it will become an infinite loop. But when you take signed, it will become a finite loop. This type of questions are mostly asked in the interviews, just to confuse you. With signed and unsigned, they'll try to give a loops like in some cases it is finite, in some cases it is infinite. Okay, everyone is clear with this, right? So when you go with unsigned, try to be cautious when you are using equal to symbol. So let me avoid that equal to symbol for now. If you want equal to symbol also, then better go here with the signed. Clear? Now, let me check it out. That is all your C topic only, ma. How signed and unsigned is working. Now see, before is 389, and whenever delay completed, see, it is taking 1764. 1764 it is taking. 1764 minus 389. Yes, 1375. Somebody try to mute it. So in this way, you try to get a value which will give you the closer value, that is 2000. So let me go here for unsigned or signed, it can be anything for you. Or let me decrease it because we are getting more. I'll make it 118. Now see, just a minute. And one other thing, let me tell you, because these are cross compilers, the code generation will change a bit from one compiler to another compiler. So whenever you observe there is a small change in the delay, you don't get confused for that. Because these are cross compilers will automatically optimize the code without your information explicitly. It will optimize the code. Now just for giving a breakpoint, what I'll do is I'll go for just giving some instruction. It will be easy for us to provide a breakpoint. See, and before starting your delay, it remains same anyway, because every time startup is taking same. I'll keep a breakpoint here. And I'm running it. How much it is? 1359. 1359 minus 389. Is it not very close? 2000? Yes. If you can make it even more close, then it will be even more fine. We'll check it out with 119. See, let me give breakpoint. 1367. 1367 minus 389. Even we are little bit less. And you don't think why I'm going with 120, all these things, just to get 1000 machine cycles. Blindly I'm going there. 1383. See, now I came very close to the value. 1383 minus 389. We are just less with 6. We are just less with 6. But if I increase it to 122, one three nine one. 1391 minus 389. So this is giving 2 machine cycles extra. Yes. So which one is comfortable to you? You want to go with 6 less or 2 more? Based on that, you can go. And why I'm telling you go with at least approximate, because getting all the time exact time delay in embedded C is not possible without timers. Without timers, getting exact time delay is not possible in embedded C. The only reason behind this is, I'll show you here. Let me take some value into this. See, you will observe one new thing here. I'm not calling delay for now. What I'm trying to do here, see, I have some value in I, and that I value I am putting into J. I'm not doing anything else. J, let me go with semicolon here. See here, your I is copied. The 2 value is copied into I, where you can see 08. I is located at 08. But where is J? Are you able to observe anything? No. But again, now let me modify the code to some extent. Like, see, now J is located in R6. I is at R7, J is at R6. Previously, did you observe any location reserved for J? No. Now we are observing that there is a location reserved for this. Means when compiler is generating the code here, it will optimize. See, when I don't write this statement, once observe this, there is some value in I and the same value you are copying into J. Fine. Like you are thinking like you want to preserve it. Yes, for the operations, increment operations are there, so it will change. So here, when you have assigned I to J, did you use J anywhere here? No. J is not being used anywhere in the program and it is holding the value same as I. In such case, compiler will think for optimizing it. Compiler will go for optimizing that code because I and J are holding the same thing. So why to waste the memory for both of them? Optimization means what? Code reduction, code size reduction. If suppose J is being used somewhere, then it will not happen. Like here I am using J in the second case. So it is not optimized. In the C, during your C practice, you have used a native compiler. So there this thing will not happen without your intimation. But here, because it is a cross compiler, it will automatically optimize the code. Clear with this? When same content is being stored in different variables, it is not going to be located for each and every variable. Compiler will optimize because it is not trying to waste the memory. So when it is doing the optimization automatically, you don't know where it is optimizing and where it is not optimizing all the time. In such case, can you predict the code generated by the compiler? No. What is the code generated by the compiler for your instruction is not predictable. When it is not predictable, can I guess code generated by the compiler is not predictable? Let me show you another scenario here. Here see, these two are same type of loops. I and J loops are almost same type. Condition is also same type. They are unsigned and condition is also greater than 0 and both are decrementing loops. Both are decrementing loops. In such case, what you will expect, code generated should be same for both, right? But see here, code generated for the upper loop, this is the code generated. For the inner loop, this is the code generated. They are of same loops, right? Same type loops, right? Only I and j values are different. But is the code generated by the compiler, is it same? No. So there, code generated by the compiler, we are not able to predict. In such case, getting always a predictable value is not possible. You try to get the closer value. But when you want exact time delay, we'll start working with the timers at that time. Clear? So with this, I'll stop for today. And tomorrow you don't have a session, ma. Tomorrow you don't have a class. You have a off tomorrow, and from day after tomorrow onwards, we'll have the class in the evening time from 5:30 onwards. Because as most of the people have requested for, because 2 o'clock is too hot and getting the proper signal, all those things are becoming problem. So let me go with the class from 5:30, and you can start admitting into the class from 5 o'clock onwards. You start admitting into the class from 5 onwards. You try to be before 5:30. Class will start sharp at 5:30. And one other good news, let me tell you, you have all good news only today. Tomorrow off, one good news for you. Is it a good news? And next one is day after tomorrow onwards, your class will be from evening 5:30 onwards. And another thing, I'm trying